There was a time when one ordinary job could carry an ordinary family. Not perfectly, not luxuriously, but enough. A house, a car, children, food on the table, a vacation once in a while, and some kind of retirement. That was not supposed to be rich. That was supposed to be normal. But today, for millions of American families, even 2 paychecks can feel like they are barely holding the door shut. The mortgage or rent comes first, then the car payment, then insurance, then groceries, then childcare, then medical bills, then debt, then the little payments that never seem to end. Phone bill, streaming, cloud storage, credit cards, buy now, pay later. Everything became a monthly payment. And somehow the family became the shock absorber for the entire economy. When housing got expensive, families adjusted. When wages stopped stretching, families adjusted. When childcare became almost another rent payment, families adjusted. When healthcare became a financial risk, families adjusted. When retirement became the worker's personal problem, families adjusted. But at some point, adjustment becomes exhaustion. This video is not about blaming women for working. It is not about nostalgia for a perfect past that never existed. And it is not about pretending every family used to be comfortable. The old America had poverty, inequality, exclusion, and serious problems. But for a large part of the middle class, there was once a clearer bargain. You worked a steady job, you could build a steady life. Today, that bargain is much weaker. So the real question is not, why don't families budget better? The real question is, did normal life become too expensive for normal wages? To answer that, we have to follow the money. Where wages stopped keeping up. Where housing swallowed the paycheck. Where cars became debt machines. Where childcare and healthcare turned family life into a financial puzzle. And finally, what it would actually take to make one income enough again, not for everyone to live the same way, but for families to have a real choice. If you want more stories about the America left behind and the decisions that made it happen, subscribe to Vanished America. Here, we don't just show the story, we follow the money behind it. When people talk about the one-income family, they usually talk about culture. They talk about marriage, gender roles, tradition, the 1950s, the old American dream. But the one-income family was not just a cultural arrangement. It was an economic system. It depended on wages. It depended on housing prices. It depended on stable jobs. It depended on benefits. It depended on pensions. It depended on the price of cars, food, insurance, healthcare, and education. And it depended on a basic idea. Full-time jobs should be strong enough to support more than one person. That idea shaped American life for decades. A worker could enter a factory, a utility company, a government job, a union job, a skilled trade, a stable office job, and reasonably expect that work would turn into a life. Not instantly, not easily, but over time. The paycheck was not just survival, it was a ladder. You could rent, then buy a small house. You could own a car. You could raise children. You could save a little. You could retire with some dignity. Again, this was never true for everyone. Black families, immigrant families, single mothers, rural workers, low-wage workers, many were excluded from that promise. But the promise existed strongly enough that it became the image of American normal life. One worker, one paycheck, one modest house, one family future. Then the math started to change. The job remained, the hours remained, the effort remained. But the life that paycheck could buy began to shrink. And this is the first thing we have to understand. One-income family did not disappear only because people wanted more stuff. It disappeared because the economic foundation underneath it changed. The first part of the story is wages. For decades, American workers became more productive. The economy got bigger. Companies became more efficient. Technology improved. Supply chains expanded. But the typical worker did not fully share in that growth. The old idea was simple. The economy produces more, workers should be able to afford more. But since the late 1970s, productivity and typical worker pay have pulled apart. The economy kept growing, but the paycheck did not grow with the same force. This is one of the biggest reasons one income stopped working. The problem was not only that prices went up, the problem was that wages lost the power to absorb those prices. A family can survive higher costs if income rises with them. But if housing rises, healthcare rises, cars rise, childcare rises, insurance rises, and wages only crawl forward, then the household has to find another source of income. That second income becomes less like extra money and more like structural support. It pays the mortgage. It pays for daycare. It pays for health insurance gaps. It pays for the car needed to get to the second job. It pays for the life one paycheck used to cover. That is the hidden transformation. The second income was once framed as opportunity, more freedom, more independence, more choice. And for many people it was. But over time, the economy quietly absorbed that second paycheck into the basic cost of living. What used to be optional became necessary. What used to raise a family's standard of living became the thing that kept the family from falling behind. If wages are the first problem, housing is the second. And housing may be the most emotional part of the story because home ownership was the center of the old bargain. The house was not just shelter. It was stability. It was wealth. It was a school district. It was retirement security. It was the place where a family could plant itself and build equity over time. But the starter home became harder to find. The modest house became less modest. The land became more expensive. Builders had more incentive to build larger, more profitable homes. Local zoning often limited smaller and denser housing. Investors entered parts of the market. Mortgage rates moved. And in many cities and suburbs, the price of entry rose faster than ordinary wages. For a one-income family, this is devastating. Because housing is not one expense among many. It is the expense that decides everything else. If the rent or mortgage is too high, every other decision becomes smaller. The grocery budget gets smaller. The savings rate gets smaller. The emergency fund disappears. The second car becomes debt. The credit card becomes backup. The dream of children gets delayed. The one-income family was built around the idea that one paycheck could cover shelter and still leave enough room to live. But today, for many families, housing takes the first bite, the biggest bite, and the bite that never really stops. The Bureau of Labor Statistics reported that in 2024, housing alone averaged more than $2,000 per month for U.S. consumer units. And housing plus transportation together accounted for more than half of average household spending. That means before food, healthcare, childcare, debt, and everything else, two categories already consume the center of the family budget. This is why so many families feel trapped. They are not imagining it. The big fixed costs moved up. The paycheck did not move enough. The one-income family also depended on something else: Manageable cost of mobility. In much of America, a car is not a luxury. It is the price of participation. It gets you to work. It gets children to school. It gets groceries home. It gets you to the doctor. It connects the family to the economy. But cars became more expensive. New vehicles became larger, more technological, more financed, and more dependent on long loans. Insurance rose. Repairs got more expensive. Interest rates mattered more. And for many families, transportation became another monthly burden that behaves almost like rent. The car payment, the insurance payment, the gas bill, the repair bill, the registration, the tires, the loan that stretches longer because the monthly payment has to look affordable. This is one of the traps of modern family life. A family may not feel like it is buying luxury. It may simply be buying access to work. But access to work now requires debt. And if both parents work, the family may need 2 cars. That second income can create its own second set of costs. Commute, another schedule, another vehicle, more gas, more maintenance, more stress. In 2024, the Bureau of Labor Statistics found that transportation averaged more than $13,000 per year for U.S. consumer units. That is more than $1,000 per month on average. So when people ask why one income is not enough, part of the answer is, simple basic machinery of American life got expensive. You do not just need a paycheck, you need a car to reach the paycheck, and the car takes part of the paycheck back. Then comes the expense that breaks the logic of many families. The old one-income household often had one parent at home because one paycheck could cover enough of the family's needs. But when one paycheck no longer covers enough, the second parent goes to work. And when the second parent goes to work, the family often has to pay someone else to care for the children. This is where the math becomes brutal. The second income is supposed to save the family, but childcare can eat a large part of it. Pew Research, using Department of Labor estimates, reported that median paid childcare costs could range from about 8% to more than 19% of median household income, depending on county size, child age, and type of care. For infants in center-based programs, the burden was especially high in very large counties. And childcare prices have also risen sharply since the pandemic. So, for many families, the question is not simply, should both parents work? The question is, how much of the second paycheck survives after childcare? This creates a strange modern reality. The second income becomes necessary because life is expensive. But the act of earning that second income creates another major expense. And once both parents are working, the family may have more income on paper, but less time, less flexibility, more stress, and not always much more security. That is why many parents feel like they are running faster just to stay in the same place. It is not weakness, it is arithmetic. The one-income model also depended on benefits. Stable work often came with health coverage, retirement security, predictable hours, and a sense that the employer carried part of the risk. Today, more of that risk lives inside the household. Healthcare is not just a medical issue, it is a family budget issue. Premiums, deductibles, co-pays, prescriptions, surprise bills, out-of-network care, all of it creates uncertainty. And uncertainty is expensive. A family cannot build security when one illness can wreck the budget. In the old bargain, a steady job often came with a clearer path to retirement. Pensions were more common. Workers could imagine old age with some stability. Today, many workers are responsible for saving, investing, managing risk, and hoping the market cooperates. That may work for higher-income households, but for families living close to the edge, Retirement saving becomes the first thing sacrificed. The present eats the future. This is another reason one income feels impossible. The paycheck is not only paying today's bills, it is also supposed to pay for tomorrow's safety. But when today is too expensive, tomorrow gets postponed. And when millions of families postpone tomorrow long enough, the entire middle-class promise starts to weaken. This is the heart of the story. Two incomes did not simply make families richer. Two incomes became the new baseline. A married couple with two working adults may look stronger on paper, but the economy adjusted around that reality. Housing markets adjusted, lenders adjusted, consumption patterns adjusted, college costs adjusted, car ownership adjusted, childcare markets adjusted, and slowly, the question changed from do both parents want to work to can the family survive if one of them does not. Pew Research has documented how dual income arrangements have become a major part of American family life. In many two-parent families, both parents work full-time. And more recent Pew analysis found that among married couples in their 30s and 40s, the share of single-income couples with children has declined, while dual-income arrangements have become more common. This does not mean women working is the problem. It means the economy captured the extra income. When more households have two earners, the market can price life around two earners. And then the one-income household becomes less viable. Not because one parent is lazy, not because families forgot how to budget, not because people stopped working hard, but because the price of normal life started assuming two paychecks. This is the quiet death of the old bargain. The second income stopped being a path to comfort. It became the replacement for the wage growth families did not get. At this point, some people will say the answer is simple. Families spend too much. People want bigger houses. They buy too many cars. They eat out. They subscribe to too many services. They use credit cards. They should budget better. There is some truth inside that criticism. Individual choices matter. Debt matters. Lifestyle inflation matters. Some families do overspend. But that explanation is too small for a problem this large. You cannot explain a national shift in family economics only by blaming personal behavior. If millions of families across different states, incomes, and generations feel the same pressure, then the problem is not only individual discipline, it is structure. The structure changed. Housing took more. Transportation took more. Healthcare took more. Childcare took more. Education took more. Retirement risk moved down to the worker. Debt became a bridge between wages and costs, and monthly payments became the way families survived the gap. So yes, budgeting matters. But a budget cannot fix a housing shortage. A budget cannot make childcare affordable. A budget cannot turn a low-wage job into a family-supporting job. A budget cannot remove medical risk. A budget cannot rebuild pensions. A budget cannot make one paycheck carry two generations of rising costs. The family did not fail the economy. The economy stopped giving many families a fair shot at stability. So what would it take to make one income enough again? Not for every family to live the same way. Not to push people back into old gender roles. Not to pretend the past was perfect. But to restore something more basic. A family should not need two full-time incomes just to afford ordinary life. A parent should not be forced to work only because housing, health care, childcare, and debt leave no room to breathe. The answer is not one magic policy. It is a different bargain. First, wages would have to reconnect with the cost of living and productivity. Work should not only produce profits, it should produce stable households. Second, housing would have to become a real national priority. That means more starter homes, more apartments, zoning reform where needed, less speculation where it damages local markets, and a serious effort to build housing people with normal jobs can actually afford. Third, childcare would have to be treated like economic infrastructure, not a private luxury. If society wants parents to work and children to be cared for, then childcare cannot remain a second rent payment. Fourth, healthcare risk would have to stop destroying family budgets. Whether through employer reform, public options, stronger insurance rules, or other models, families need protection from medical costs that turn one crisis into years of debt. Fifth, the country would have to rebuild the connection between work and security. Benefits, predictable schedules, training, pensions, or stronger retirement systems. Not every job can make a family rich, but full-time work should not leave a family permanently fragile. And finally, public money should buy public stability. If taxpayers subsidize companies, housing, infrastructure, energy, manufacturing, or healthcare, the return should not only go to shareholders. It should show up in wages, local communities, affordable services, and family security. The one-income family did not disappear because Americans forgot how to work. It disappeared because the life one income was supposed to buy became too expensive. Housing rose, childcare rose, healthcare rose, debt became normal, retirement became uncertain, and wages did not carry the same promise they once did. That is why this story matters. It is not only about money. It is about time. It is about parents who barely see their children. It is about couples who cannot afford to have children. It is about workers who do everything right and still feel one emergency away from collapse. It is about older Americans looking at their children and wondering why the same path no longer works. And it is about a country that still talks about family values while building an economy where family life is harder to afford. The question is not whether every family should live on one income. The question is whether one ordinary job should still be strong enough to build an ordinary life. Because when that becomes impossible, America does not just lose a family model, it loses one of the foundations of the middle class.